Disney is in a tailspin. Everything associated with Disney is now failing.
My friends, something is rotten in the state of Disney.
It looks like it's time for another Disney is burning video.
Disney has been failing us for years, it seems like, but before we get into that, let's take a trip down memory lane. These are some of the movies that shaped and influenced millions of people with beautiful music, relatable but unique stories and characters. Disney kind of helped us believe in our dreams, made it seem like we could do anything as long as we tried. And those are messages that still stick by me to this day. I know I'm not the only one whose childhood was literally defined by their productions. Back in the 2000s, Disney movies and TV shows made up most of what I watched as a kid, to the point where my mom told me that there was a period in my life where her and my dad would be forced to watch Lion King every single night just because I couldn't get enough of it as a kid. I'm sorry, Mom, by the way. Sometimes I feel like we don't even realize how many brilliant movies Disney made when we were younger. I was recently reminded about an era that was coined the Disney Renaissance, which was basically all of the 1990s, where they released not one, not two, not three, but 9 movies that were all nominated for Academy Awards. And 6 of them even went on to win an Oscar. I'll reveal which movies these are in a second, but these 9 movies have withstood the test of time and to this day are still considered amazing. This was basically the era that catapulted Disney into extreme popularity, not only domestically, but internationally as well. As I list off these movies, I want you guys to do me a favor. List off which ones you don't recognize. So we have The Little Mermaid, we have Beauty and the Beast, we have Aladdin, The Lion King, Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules and Mulan, and last but not least, Tarzan. Let me guess, you recognize all of the ones I listed, don't you? Even though they were released around 30 years ago now. That's the magic of Disney's Renaissance era. It's the reason why so many of us treasure Disney to this day, no matter how shitty their productions get. I'm talking to you, live action Mulan. Speaking of, it's about high time we talk about what in the is going on with Disney recently. Let's get into it. Disney over the past few years has been nothing short of a train wreck. With the focus being on live action remakes and sequels, most of their movies just haven't been as good as we expect from the studio. And honestly, I'd say most of us are tired of all the remakes. Just from the 2020s alone, most of the movies they've released have been huge failures in terms of box office numbers, and they've had one real hit in Encanto, which, I mean, let's be honest, although the songs are a bop, props to Lin-Manuel Miranda, it doesn't even stand anywhere close to Disney's best animated movies. On top of that, they seem hellbent on taking the easy way out by producing live-action remakes that just aren't good and should not exist in the first place. You cannot tell me that people wanted Little Mermaid as a live action. Instead of focusing on creating new, unique, and creative animated films, they'd rather rely on our generation's nostalgia. The thing is, when they do release new stories, they're just simply alright. They're not horrible, they're not great, they're well and truly kind of middle of the road. And when we're talking about a studio and company with as much history and importance to the film industry as Disney, I don't know about you guys, but to me that just feels like a disappointment. Now, I've been talking about how Disney's been a train wreck recently without even mentioning all of the controversy that's been surrounding Disney as well. From the Snow White movie remake being cancelled to the discourse around Ariel's race or the crazy backlash they got for the horrendous Mulan live action, deservedly so I might add, it seems like they've completely lost sight of what the audience really wants, and that's the key difference here. One of the keys of their success in the 1990s was their ability to adjust their films to what audiences wanted. For example, let's turn back the clock a bit and imagine ourselves back in 1959. Sleeping Beauty has just been released by Disney, a movie where the female protagonist spends 90% of her time Sleeping. Brilliant. For decades back then, they were getting criticized because of the portrayal of women in movies like Sleeping Beauty. But the thing is, they definitely listened to that criticism and gave audiences stronger female characters because of it. Like Ariel in 1989 or Mulan later on. That ability to change with the times, paired with new innovations in animation and fresh, creative stories, is what really allowed for Disney's rebirth in the 90s. But that all seems to be lost now, and it's been 30 years since Disney's renaissance. To the point that people might be asking, myself included, if Disney can even make a comeback to that quality of film production. That's the real question here, and before I reveal what I think the answer might be, let's take a look at what they have planned until 2030, shall we? Now, apart from the 5 gazillion untitled movies they seem to have, there are only 2 original animated movies planned, and one of them is Elio, which is actually Pixar, so it doesn't count. So there's a grand total of 1 original Disney animated movie. Gotta love what they're doing over there. Okay, but let's just give them the benefit of the doubt here. Let's at least see what this Wish movie is all about and see whether it'll carry Disney's animated mantle going forward.
A few moments later.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it actually looks pretty good. I love the fact that they're using a mix of 3D and 2D animation, which is a new pivot away from solely 3D movies like they were doing with Frozen, Encanto, or Moana. I feel like that style was getting old. Also, the story looks fun, interesting, and the songs in the trailer seem awesome and kind of reminiscent of Disney's Renaissance songs. See, this is exactly the sort of thing we've been clamoring for from Disney, and I'm so glad they're at least trying to listen. It's just not enough. Every other titled movie plan is either a remake or a sequel, please, for the love of God. To make matters worse, there's been a worrying trend at Disney over the past few years where they've been focusing more on quantity versus quality across all studios. Pixar, Star Wars, Marvel, Walt Disney Picture Films, there just hasn't been a priority in spending more time creating fewer quality releases rather than shoving as much content down our throats as possible regardless of quality. Just for context, in the 1990s, Walt Disney had 80 releases. Which sounds like a lot, but it's 8 releases per year on average. In the 2020s, they will already have 51 releases in 3 years, which averages out to around 17 releases a year. Now, obviously, technology and efficiency has improved a ton since the 90s. I know that, let's get that assumption out of the way, but that's more than an 100% increase in releases per year. It's just clear as day that the focus is on quantity rather than on quality, and those numbers that I just listed are only taking into account Walt Disney Picture Films. The same can also be said for other studios within Disney like Marvel. Now, although it might seem like the 2020s decade isn't going to be what we want as fans, there is a bit of hope here. Bob Iger himself actually recently stated their intention to reduce releases and correct some creative misses that they've had, which is definitely a welcome sign. Not only that, Wish seems like a clear example of Disney finally making an effort to listen to what fans truly want. Honestly, it's pretty simple for Disney. They just need to start focusing more on original animated films that have good songs and unique stories, rather than recycling old content. People are tired of remakes. We simply want to see a return of the Disney of old that prioritized fresh, inspiring, innovative animated films, and above all, listened to the audience. So, to get back to my earlier question, if Disney can even make a comeback to that quality of film production, I truly do. Call that naive optimism if you will, but there are definite positive signs from a corporate standpoint and a creative standpoint that show Disney might well and truly be heading towards a Disney Renaissance 2.0. Anyway, that's it from me, guys. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe if you like this type of content. See you guys in the next one.